So the generators need to really wait, because we have all this energy and we have these needs and we need to satisfy our needs, but we need to respond. And it's a real like, yes, I want to do that, or and if it's a that's a no.
It's a no. If it's not, this is what I told Jenna, if it's not a yes, it's a no.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
it's not a yes, it's a no.
And the yes is powerful. It's a whole body yes.
Like you, and if you, I remember I was going to go to Dan McDonald's juicing thing, and my friend was like, what do you need a juicing feast for? You just did you've done 40 days on your own. And then I thought of not going, and it sunk. And then when I thought of going, I was like, oh, like that's a yes.
And then that's a yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's an invitation somewhat, and then it's exactly the same for you. For all of us, we have this yes and no thing. But for generators, it's crucial. Right. Crucial, because if you don't respond, what happens is we start using our energy wrongly, and then we deplete ourselves, and then we're miserable.
And then you're miserable, and you get sick,
and depressed,
and tired, and
sick,
and then you have to redo, go back.
That's the trick with manifesting generators. We usually like are jumping steps, and then we always have to come back because we're jumping steps because we're so impatient, which is a similar aspect.
My friend Tina, she's a superhero. She looks like a superhero. I mean, she's gorgeous, and she worked for Subway, and she was going like working, and now she's being very careful about which project. You know, taking the time.
Perfect.
They're like what she said. It's like, or what I read. It's like the different. It's like there's warrior and there's Buddha, and to lean on the Buddha, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
We've moved from that warrior. We needed to like have strategies for survival. We needed to be active and all this. We're moving away from that, where we're going to be more passive and receptive and just wait for life to come to us. And like actually life is more intelligent than we are.
Right.
We come from life.
Right.
Life created us.
We don't know everything.
So we don't know everything.
There's strength in that, isn't there? Strength.
It's amazing.
With the Buddha, there's like this strength. So I see that in manifesting generators.
Exactly.
In ones who are acting according to their design.
Of course.
And nothing, I heard that for projectors, when we see another projector acting out of their design, it's very uncomfortable.
Super uncomfortable. Because there's an allegiance to each type. So like MGs are like to be together, projectors like to be together.
True?
It is, and manifestor, because it's a recognition.
Right.
So we feel right away like, oh, we can understand each other.
Yeah. Like,
but when a projector is completely out, and this is true with a generator, when a generator is completely not right, it feels horrible to everybody, but especially to another manifesting generator, or here for two projectors.
Each design, or what do you call it? Like
design type.
Each design type needs to see their other design type person acting according to their design for it to be copacetic.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I would say everybody needs to be in their proper form, and then everybody can be accepted, and it's much more enjoyable to be with each person. When anybody's not aligned, it's not enjoyable, and everybody tries to help the person come into alignment.
Right, and then there's all that work trying to get somebody, when you could be doing great things in the world, we're trying to fix somebody who's out of there. They can drain you, right?
It is draining.
The people who are not acting,
draining.
It's draining. They're like,
heavy. I mean, they're frustrated, or they're bitter. You know,
and they
as
suck
projectors.
your energy pretty much.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they need others. Rather than going back into that, what we were saying, when you self-love and you get into that love energy, you know, everything comes to you. When you're in a horrible energy, like bad things come to you.
Nothing good is happening.
And so it's a perpetual motion. And we all know that. Everybody's gone through that, you know.
I'm going to shut the window. Keep going.
It's funny.
Loud breaking.
Reflectors are tough. It's really, they're amazing beings because they're extremely light beings as well, and they reflect, you know, whatever environment is in front of them, and it's also they reflect whatever people are in front of them. And so they're here to help break.
That's hard.
It's really hard because they're actually like, I'll say lunar beings. Like if you look at your chart, everyone has some centers that are colored. And then those are your strengths. And so you're beaming those. And every white center is where you receive people's energies. And so that's like the exchange. We give and we take.
So
reflectors, they're all white.
I can't even imagine what that must feel like to be out in the world, just feeling other people's stuff
all the time, and you don't really have so much of your stuff.
A reflector.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I think so. Exactly. I think Michael Jackson also, and Amma, who's like a hugging saint. So Amma, like what she does is she hugs you, and she reflects all of your beauty. So for an instant, you're completely yourself. And so it feels incredible. That's what she does. That's what reflectors
That's
do.
a beautiful explanation of why people wait in very long lines all night to get a hug from this woman.
Exactly. I mean, it's transcendental. Because she blasts, she
that.
augments who you are and gets rid of all your conditioning in like an instant. Now after that, there's still always work to be done, because it's like a good way of remembering what your frequency feels like when we're in love, you feel that.
Right.
But then life gives you some challenges, so you grow, and we consciously grow.
Right.
Because we don't like to be stale.
It gives you a vantage point, kind of like when I say if you can make, when you make decisions, healthy decisions for yourself, for food, you can make better decisions coming if you've ever had the vantage point of true health, which could be a month of raw food, and then you'll always have that standard from which to compare. So when Amma hugs you, you always have that, you know, that thing that you got. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
That's exactly it. And that's what reflectors kind of do. They just bring you really into alignment. But they're very strange, because like, I mean, you could like almost be really warm with them, give them a kiss, and then they almost look at the other person and it's ice cold. And you're kind of like, wow, what did I do to them? But it's actually their aura. It's how it works. Their auras are completely connected to the moon. So every 15 minutes it changes. And they have no control over this.
Oh my God.
And in order to, their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. So to make decisions, they have to wait 28 days.
Oh my God. I have splenic, so I get to make them like,
right there.
Like that's it. If I think about it, it's going downhill.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So then the other thing about human design that you want to look in, so you have your type, and then you can really go and read more about your type, and it's really fascinating and liberating, actually. Then look at whether you're emotional or non-emotional. It'll say it. If you're emotional, there's half the world that's emotional and half the world that's non-emotional. And I think human design brings this to the table in a very new way. And human design has been tested in clinics for 20 years. So it's very much proven that this is actually how our genes work. And what's amazing is the emotional people have a new consciousness that's inside them. The way that I see it is that it's streaming through them. It's almost like a radio program.
Okay.
There's a DJ, and we'll say he's in the universe, and he's, you know, spinning songs. Emotional people are like radio stations that are blasting, or they're the radio tower that's blasting this sound out of every one of their cells. From the universe. They can't control it.
They are like a radio.
And they're blasting. And they almost have, each of them have their frequency, like 102.7, 99.1, da da da. Right?
Okay.
And so they're blasting. And then the non-emotional people are receivers. And we have the different channels, and we have the volume, and we take in the music. And then we can actually hear. Like when you go to a radio tower, you don't hear what the tower is broadcasting. You have to like decode it.
Okay.
So there's this incredible interaction between emotional and non-emotional people. And you can be a projector emotional or a projector non-emotional, same thing with every other. Right.
Like Jenna's emotional and I'm
projector and you're non-emotional, exactly. Right. And so there's this really beautiful pairing between the two of you, because you can really maneuver this new consciousness, which is the emotional consciousness. We were in mental consciousness, so that's very much the morals, and there's a logic system, and you can be right or wrong, like math, you know.
Right.
With feelings.
It's not like that anymore. It's not.
Feelings is your feelings.
And energy.
And nobody can say that that's wrong.
No.
Oh, you felt wrong. What? No, I felt this, okay.
Wow.
So that's actually moving us into a much more individual state, where we honor the individual. You know, we were very patriotic and very much like, I'll sacrifice for the tribe or for the country. Newer generations are less inclined to do that. Right. They're really about their own individual self. And we kind of criticize that because that's what we knew. But actually, as we move further, the individual is so important, and we're going to be coming up with new societies that are based on respecting the individual needs. And therefore, we can thrive because each of us can become who we are, rather than needing to fit in what society needs. And
it's kind of like a classroom where everybody has to learn flat out the same thing, and nobody gets to shine. But when you're individual, you know, like they say, the bird can fly. Like I always felt like they're like dragging the bird down, teaching him how to swim. When what's the point?
Yeah.
Like
he's a bird.
He's a bird.
Let him fly. Yeah. He's not. He's gonna drown.
Stop with the classroom thing. One day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on with education, but I mean, that's a huge, huge change. Thank you.
Roses.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just so cool. So you guys can look on mybodygraph.com and plug in your information, and you can also do either a vision quest or a reading. You can do them via Skype. Can you do your
I do.
things?
So I do personal sessions on people where I go through your human design, I go through your energetic wounds, I go through your subconscious patterns, and that we can do through Skype, no problem.
Right.
Vision quest, you have to come. I mean, a vision
Yeah.
quest is a really intense initiation. It's 10 days, so there's 3 days of teachings. Then we do a sweat lodge ceremony. Then you go 4 days and 4 nights
Wait,
alone
get that.
in
4
nature.
4 days, 4 nights alone in nature. I'm going to do it. I won't be able to take you on that part of.
And usually you fast, and you have no electronics. You're completely disconnected from the virtual world, we'll say, and then you get totally connected into the natural world, and that's the whole point. And this was done always around 13. In every culture, you used to have to go alone in nature to discover who you are and what your purpose is. And once you come back, you kind of get rid of all your conditioning and all these false ideas, and you come with very deep clarity. And so when you come back to the community, you're a purposeful person. And this is something that's really missing. Like, how many of us don't know what we're doing here?
Yeah.
So it's a simple thing. Just go to nature for a while.
For a little while, but then we might not know what we're supposed to do next.
Exactly.
So we might need a vision.
Exactly.
And what better way than fasting and being in nature for 4 days by yourself?
It sounds so scary, but it's because we're so disconnected from nature, and so we think it's threatening. You know, the
Like,
bear's going to eat
die?
me.
Am I going to
you're gonna
die because I'm not eating? A lot of people think
never,
they'll die, but
ever
nobody's
have
died.
Anybody dies. Actually, nature comes and supports you, and that's like one of the greatest lessons that you learn. Nature is with us,
Right.
and for us, not against us. And unfortunately, we look at it as just a resource when it's everything's alive. These plants have consciousness. These plants have a story. You know, every single plant has a certain consciousness, and it's incredible. Like, there's a coordination, and they're all connected. I mean, it's really wild. Okay, it's a certain basic level of consciousness, and we have like a whole different ones, and different animals have different consciousness. So when you eat an animal, you're going to get a certain consciousness. Are you aware of that?
Right.
And if that consciousness or that animal was not treated right, was abused and killed wrong, you're going to get that energy in you. And it's really just not a good thing.
Right.
And this is very subtle, but it's actually very, very real. I mean,
Builds
quantum
up.
physics talks about this. The consciousness of things. You
Yeah.
know, quantum physics is like, there's actually nothing that's real in terms of material. Everything is consciousness and what we believe, which is mind-blowing. And when you start listening to quantum physicists, they're crazier than most spiritual people I've ever met.
Wow.
And yet it's the laws of nature that they're starting to discover. So it's pretty amazing. And shamans have been, you know, into this for a long time. And so they've devised tools to bring us into that alignment with nature. And that's really empowering. So shamanism is all about empowering you to function correctly. So then there's the 4 days and 4 nights, and then I offer plant ceremonies, like these master plant ceremonies, so like ayahuasca.
Like ayahuasca, you guys.
And
Sting
San
did it,
Pedro.
everybody does it. People do it recreationally around here, which doesn't interest me. I would do the Vision Quest with MANEX because it's important who is running the show. It's like a party. Like, if somebody uptight is throwing a party, it's going to be an uptight party. Like, it's like,
it's true.
Yeah.
But more so, on top of it, you're set in setting when you're going into these like incredible psychedelic experiences, and master teachers, because they each have a consciousness, and when you take it, it's incredible. You're led.
Each plant has its own consciousness.
Each plant has its own consciousness. Right. Ayahuasca, we call it a master plant. We call it the grandmother, actually, because she has a very deep feminine energy, and like you feel like you're wrapped by this motherly love as she's going through all your trauma and rewiring your whole brain, and like it's quite an amazing experience and connecting you to the divine. Then we have San Pedro, for example, which is a cactus. We call him the grandfather because he's much more, I mean, he's a prick. Like, literally, he's just straight up prick.
That's so funny.
What he brings us is, it's not so much like, in ayahuasca you go really internal. With San Pedro you almost want to be more social, you want to be open, and it's more young, you want to be active, you walk around mountains, and yet it opens up your nervous system so you're completely connected to nature. Wow. And you might even see certain things that you wouldn't see normally, and especially your feeling level. Now, both of those plants also do some amazing healing, physical healing, like the whole serotonin system and your joy and everything else gets really healed. Now, when you use these plants and you haven't purged, you haven't done the preparation, the plant's just going to go and like purge all your crap, and it's kind of like a waste of that plant's potential.
Right.
If
You
you've
want it to
done the
get
work
deep.
beforehand and then you use that plant, it really takes you into like an
Like
incredible
cleansing the
lens.
body.
So cleansing the body is really important. Being in nature, I don't understand people who do these plants in the middle of cities when you have
I know,
Wi-Fi
I
and
don't
radio and
understand it at
video and
all.
everything. So you open yourself up to what?
Yeah.
This toxic stuff. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
All shamanic initiations are about bringing you back
Into
in
nature. That's the point. Like with somebody who's done it a long time, and it's in nature. That's yeah. That's
I mean,
shamanism.
the noise of the jungle when you're in that, or of the mountains, of the crickets. It's actually important versus the honking and the blowing in the planes. I mean, there's also hey buddy.
She wanted to be in.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all animals have consciousness too, individual consciousness on top of it. But they're also tied into like dog consciousness, for example, or like wolf consciousness. And then there's the individual. Just like us, actually. Humans are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
We're this incredibly wonderful connected species with this incredible power. And unfortunately, we all think we're all alone and we're all closed. And so we're all protecting ourselves rather than actually really connecting to each other. One of the greatest things that science has done is they put these little number generators and receptors all over the place, like in nature, in cities, and everything else, and it's just generating like numbers, random numbers. And then they've seen like during New Year's or during like 9/11 or during sports events, these numbers like all of a sudden start having patterns because all of us are like focused on that specific event.
Wow.
So basically we go into synchronicity by thinking of the same thing, and we actually are changing life patterns, life's energy.
Wow.
So our gift would be like if we could all meditate, for example, all together on something really beautiful, and really all of humanity, like us, 9 billion people or 13 billion, I don't know how we are, many.
We could change everything.
We could change spontaneously everything, just like Anthony Robbins says. It's like on that moment you can change. And so by that meditation and connectedness, we could actually change our world.
That's amazing.
But unfortunately, everything tells us fear and be careful, be wary, there's dangerous people, and like you don't want to mix up.
Right.
All these perpetual aspects of fear make us disconnect
that's weird,
us.
that's bad.
Exactly.
I hope it happens sooner rather than later.
Most relations, I mean, if you look at what brings us the most joy, besides food.
Food's good.
And sex.
That's good.
It's relationships.
Both are necessary.
And actually, we create relationships with food to get sex.
to get sex. I always say we're doing this to get to love, but we're doing it to get to sex, connection, love, and spirituality.
Of course, it's to love.
But it's to get our needs met.
Relationships are so vital for us. We're here for that, to really relate to each other.
Right.
And human design is incredible because it helps us accept the other for what they are, and it allows us to be authentic to who we are, and so our relationships are incredible.
It gives an understanding
it really
instead
does.
of a judgment. Like, it helps you make sense of the people around you. It really can help your relationships far beyond all of these beautiful things that we've had. We've been blessed with, like the 5 love languages and astrology and all of the things that help us navigate. Human design really helps us understand other people and our place, so we can be busy doing what we're doing.
Love. Living love.
Yeah.
And the magic comes.
And the magic comes. Here he is. The magic arrived in my kitchen from Spain.
Yay.
So it's another example of being a lighthouse and doing your stuff. So food first, it's like layers. Like, I've given 5 years of food videos. And then we went into decluttering and feng shui. And isn't it interesting that we're getting into this whole next level?
Well, as we were talking before, like we talk a lot about spirituality, and it's almost like outside the body, or it's something exterior. I always say spirituality is right here, right now. How do you clean your house? Is it clean? That's spiritual.
Right.
How are you eating? That's spiritual. How are you putting the energy in your food while you're cooking?
Yeah.
Are you frustrated and stressed? Well, you're going to be eating stress.
Don't do it.
Well, you're not being spiritual right
Don't
there.
do it.
I would even say you're not being conscious.
Right. Like, it's so beautiful to look at the carrot and go, wow, am I going to wash it or am I going to peel it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, I was away from my kitchen for a couple weeks, and I thought I was so lucky to go out to all these restaurants because everybody goes out, and I wanted to be like everybody else. And the minute I got back into my kitchen, within one day, I felt better. I felt nurtured, and I felt loved, because there's something finding this and then washing this and then chopping this, and it's always done with kind of excitement for the flavors and the textures, and that I'm taking the time to feed myself.
Yeah.
What a luxury.
It's amazing.
And spirituality
That's self-love.
is in that. Yeah.
That's self-love. That's the deepest spiritual work that we can do. So
thank you so
You're
much.
rocking it.
Seriously, thank you for my healing, for this. We're so lucky to have him here with us. So
Such a
I'll
pleasure.
put your contact below.
Yeah,
Yes?
absolutely.
All right.
I'd
Thank
love
you
to
so
answer your
much.
questions.
Excellent.
And I love guiding people to really explore themselves so that they can live in that love. So.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much.